What is going on, FailroadExpress? I'm Joshua Thomas. We are here to talk about Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. I've got the newest trailer playing right here, and there's a lot to unpack about this. Not only is there a new trailer, but there are people who have gotten to play a couple chapters of the game and have been reporting on that as well. And I just want to dispel some myths as well. So, but there's, oh man, first off, trailer confirms, it confirms that the original Crisis Core ending is going to be in Reunion as well. So once again, they've said this is kind of like an ultra remaster, not a remake. So we are getting the original ending. Now, that's not to say that they aren't going to have some kind of bonus ending content, maybe post-credit or after completing a certain number of missions, and so on and so forth. But, you saw in the thumbnail, 300 missions. No! This game is not like Remake, and we're also going to go over that in this video. So hopefully I can get that done in like 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know. I have a tendency to talk on tangents about this kind of thing. I will say also at the end of this video, be sure to click on the link that's in the video description to go to the community page and take the latest poll on how you would want to play Ever Crisis, which we haven't heard anything about. So it's asking you, hey, do you want to play it on mobile, PlayStation, Xbox, PC? Like, how do you want to play Ever Crisis? So be sure to click on that at the end of this video. And I want to also say another thing. Man, Square Enix just is just shitting on me. They have to give us something in a secret ending or the like. Sarah Amaya says, I think that it's absolutely possible. And, with all the work that they did on this, calling it Crisis Core Reunion and wanting this to come out before Rebirth, I'm sure it only makes sense that they would give us a little something extra. But nevertheless, the original ending is confirmed, and this trailer, honestly, I'll just go ahead and say, if you've been watching any of my other videos, I vehemently preach that you should play the OG Final Fantasy VII before playing Crisis Core, because Crisis Core fundamentally spoils the biggest twists in the original game. So absolutely play the OG if you have time, but I get it. There's plenty of people out there who are going to play Crisis Core beforehand. I'm just saying, if you want to enjoy the entire compilation the best you can, play the OG. But then they came out with this trailer, and this trailer, it just completely, like, this trailer contains like all the big spoilers for the OG and kind of Crisis Core too. Keep the hype going, lol. Yeah. I will do my best to do that. I've pre-ordered the game, so I'm getting it. And from what I've seen and from, the interviews and all that, it does look like they have absolutely polished up the combat system, even though, and this is one of the big things I want to talk about, the difference is from Remake and Crisis Core Reunion. While they have definitely polished it up and brushed it up and made it look smoother, it's still based on the original Crisis Core. And the original Crisis Core's combat system is not very much like Remake's. And so I've seen some reviewers who have played this early release, these first two chapters of Crisis Core, who have never played the original Crisis Core before, and they're talking about, oh, it's so similar to Remake. It's not going to be that similar. This is an action RPG combat system, but you are going to be kind of getting those random encounters. In other words, you're going to be running along, and then all of a sudden you're going to stop the entering combat phase, or whatever they say is going to announce, and then the enemies are going to appear out of thin air, and you're going to fight them. You're going to fight them right there on the map, but it's still sort of random encounters. And if it's anything like the original game, you can kind of guess where these random encounter zones are, and you can actually walk around these zones in certain areas to try and just get past them, because there's a lot. Because this is a super duper remaster of the original Crisis Core, there are going to be some outdated feeling things in this brand new game, even if you're playing it on PS5 or high-speed PC, whatever it may be. There's still going to feel there's some things are going to feel a little old school. The control scheme is going to be a little different. You've seen in the trailers, and including this trailer, that the UI compared to Remake is different. It's much more like the original Crisis Core, of course, and it looks like they did streamline a few things, giving you the ability to use hotkeys. It is going to be better because on the original PSP, you had far less controls than you do on all these modern day consoles now. So being able to play it on PlayStation or the PC or even the Nintendo Switch, you're going to have more buttons and the two joysticks, the analog joysticks, to be able to do commands and control things. So that automatically is going to make combat smoother. It looks great. It looks fantastic, even though it's not going to have that same level of detail that Remake does as well. Then you've got the digital mind wave. I think that's what it's called. It's that roulette wheel that is constantly spinning in the upper left corner. That thing's going to give you special abilities, and that's going to be how you access your limit breaks and summons as well. If it doesn't give you one of those, it can also do some interesting things like boost your stats and give you certain invulnerabilities, like, oh, you're invulnerable to magic or invulnerable to physical attacks, or maybe you can cast spells for free, like just, spam spells because it's not charging you MP. Then this is another thing that I really like, that really rewards solid gameplay and learning your enemies. Sometimes it's hard to do. It's difficult to dodge your enemy attacks depending on what you're fighting, but the DMW can also boost your stats. In other words, your HP, your MP, and your AP in this game, in order to do physical special attacks that are given to you by yellow materia, you have to expend AP, which is action points. The DMW can boost your stats above their maximum, which I always enjoyed about that, because as long as you don't get hit, your HP can just keep boosting and boosting and boosting, and if you're just an ace at the game, you can get over 10,000 HP. I think it's even possible for you to get over 100,000 HP if you play the game that much and you're just that good. And that gives you the ability to go on these extra missions, and perhaps go on missions that are tougher than you would normally be able to go on, and have the ability to fight bosses that are a lot tougher and still be survivable. So once again, that's reliant on you like not getting hit, and your HP, MP, and your AP can just keep going up and up, and it'll even say it in the bottom left corner, which I think my picture is going to block it if we see any of the combat info or combat scenes here. But your stats down there, if you go and watch the trailer, you might see where it says break next to those, and that means that you've broken your own limit. Yeah, my picture's covering it up, but either way, the next thing so that was one thing I wanted to kind of dispel for people. Even though this is an action RPG, it's not the same as Remake. It's still fun. Like, that was one of its saving graces too in the OG Crisis Core was that it was an entertaining combat system. It was a rewarding combat system, even though in the original one on the PSP, you had to sit through every single one of those cutscenes that happens mid-battle. Now you can save those up and skip them as well. So that's another upgrade that they've done. Talking about the graphics, even though the graphics have had a massive upgrade, like I said, like a super I've already forgotten the word for it, remaster, they're still not going to be quite as crisp as remakes either. And you can probably see it in this trailer right here. I can't remember. I think they said this was recorded on a PS4 or a PS5. It looks good. It doesn't look like PS5 quality graphics, but it still looks like good graphics. But you're going to see more plasticky movement from these characters because they didn't go in and like re-motion capture every single movement. They didn't redo every single movement. I think if you were to watch the original Crisis Core and the Reunion side by side, you'd see they make the exact same movements. So these brand new high quality skins are still put on kind of like the original skeletons. And from what I've heard also, these very beautiful cutscenes haven't really been messed with at all. Maybe they've been touched up a bit, but they haven't been messed with that much. Thanks for joining me. I see we've got a few people. Let me know if you guys played the original Crisis Core, and let me know if you guys played it after having played the OG and what you guys thought of it. Another thing I saw recently in some reviewers who got to play some of the early content is that some of the voice acting is a little shoddy. I don't know if they necessarily meant that they just didn't like the voice actors, or if they were talking about the pauses that are happening in some of the areas, why those pauses are happening, like it's kind of like awkward pauses in between one character talking and another character talking. Not sure how that's going to turn out, and hopefully the scenes that were already voice acted in the original Crisis Core are still very fluid and smooth. Sarah, I loved it. Yeah, I remember playing it for the first time because that was the first Final Fantasy VII game where you could actually look up when you were in the slums and see the plates above you. Now that Remake has come out, I hope that when we look up and see the plates above us, that they're using the skyboxes from Remake, or at least something similar, because the Remake skyboxes are very beautiful, and they would still hold true to this game even though it's 5 or 6 years before the events of the original and before the events of Remake. So once again, for those of you who just joining me, I'm going to preach it again. Play the OG before you play Crisis Core. But there's also the question of, do you need to play this before playing Rebirth? And I honestly don't know. We have so little information on Rebirth right now, and there's, of course, hundreds of hours of speculations on theory crafting and what could happen. They are releasing Crisis Core Reunion right now, and I think that is a strategic move, and the developers are even encouraging people to play it before Rebirth. So that does tell me that they at least want you to learn more about Zack Fair, the main character of Crisis Core. But are they also wanting you to learn more about Angeal and Genesis and the events that happen in Crisis Core, because these events are going to be woven into Rebirth? That's entirely possible. We did see at the beginning of the one and only Rebirth trailer that we have that there is a white feather floating down towards Zack as he is carrying Cloud into Midgar. And right here you see it, the white feathers represent Angeal. This is really the biggest representation of falling white feathers that we have. There are other references to at least white wings in Final Fantasy VII, but not necessarily to the feathers falling, because of course in the OG, when you fight Sephiroth at the very end of the game, he has a white wing. He actually has multiple white wings in one of his forms. So let me know what you think of what you're hoping Crisis Core Reunion will do, and then this is my final point too. The 300 missions. This was something I was really hoping they were going to change, but I guess with it being a much more true remaster than remake, they simply are adding all these 300 side missions into it. If you want to talk about padding for a game, yeah, it's optional padding, but these side missions unlock a ton of items that you can only get in these side missions, and I would say about 90% of them are, start the mission, you get like a little paragraph of flavor text, and then you run around somewhere. Most of the time it's like a corridor. You're running down a corridor, having multiple random encounter battles until you finally reach the end where you fight a slightly tougher boss or a slightly tougher monster or some kind of unique boss, and then you get an item, and then it's over, and then you go to the next mission. Maybe 10% of them have side story elements. A lot of them have to do with Kid Yuffie, how she is 5 years before the events of the OG. So you'll be running into a child version of Yuffie in a lot of those side quests. But they're also a grind, and they are, in the original, they were a repetitive, it eventually got boring. Even if you stagger doing these side missions throughout your entire playthrough of Crisis Core Reunion, there's 300. You're going to get bored doing these side missions because they're repetitive, and they lack a lot of different types of side quests as well. Once again, almost every single one of them, if my memory serves me correctly, is go down corridors, fight monsters, fight a mini boss at the end or some kind of major boss at the end, maybe get a little story element, and you're done. On to the next one. So there are it is fun to see this story. The story is enjoyable, even though there are some cheesy moments in it. And the best parts are Zack, Sephiroth, and Cloud. Yeah, I'd say Aerith as well. Because you are going to learn a lot about the subtext that happens in Remake, and no doubt things that are going to happen in Rebirth as well. And now that we know that Zack is alive, I'm sure some of the information in Crisis Core is going to be reflected in Rebirth as well. Whether we get to play as him, though, I don't know. But I thank you guys for joining me on this video. It was kind of impromptu because I saw this trailer like this morning, and I was like, oh man, I've got to talk about this. So, but yeah, let me know in a comment. Let me know your thoughts on Crisis Core, whether you played it or not, whether you've pre-ordered it like I do. I am looking forward to playing it. Not looking forward to grinding through 300 missions, and I'm probably not going to finish all of them. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think there's going to be some extra content added to it at the end, like a special cutscene. I know Sarah thinks that there is going to be, and it wouldn't surprise me if there was. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out more videos on Final Fantasy VII and video games and board games in general, and I'll catch you guys next time.